Hey, I know you've probably watched 1,000 of these things, but honestly, it's the best way for me to describe what I do and how I do it. So I thought I would just run through my process, and these are the icons I generally use, and I've kind of built these out. But first things first, every image is green. So for me, being color, every image I take is going to be that color, right? So that's kind of nasty. So I run a spectral photometric color calibration, and these are just the default values. I'm not changing anything specific because the camera has all the metadata embedded in the photo, so I don't have to do anything weird to it. So I just let it run, and then I get graphs, and those look pretty okay. And that'd be nice if these were a little more on that line, but not too bad. Okay, so I've run the color calibration, and now I actually have something here. Now, to be fair, there is a pretty nasty little gradient on this. So one of the tools that I use is Graxpert. It takes a little bit to install, but it's well worth it, and it is free. So I highly recommend it. I don't generally use SCNR, which is basically getting rid of green noise anymore, because between SBCC and Graxpert, it's pretty much cleaned out. So Graxpert has basically these settings. You can make some adjustments, but I don't. I just drag it on and let it do its job. You can run this externally if you want to, but for me, I like it embedded because then I don't have to screw around. All right, so that's done. Let me rerun that. Let's get the colors right. So if you don't think that did anything, you can back it off and look at what is actually a fairly nasty gradient down here, because this was very low in the sky when I shot it. So there's our fixed image. Okay, now next on the list of things that I want to do, and mainly it's because of certain things like stars looking like this and a few other bits. I'm not really going to affect much of this. I'm going to leave the defaults alone. But if I come over here to these corners and I get a good look at these corners, the stars aren't very perfect, that's for sure. So I run Blur Exterminator. Once again, this is the AI4 updated one. I'm not touching any of this. I'm going to leave it all alone, because every time I fuck with it, I just screw it up. So honestly, just drag it on and drop it. And when it's done, it will be exceptionally better. It does a really nice job. And yes, my nose is still running from Kansas. I don't know what the hell's going on. All right, so here's my new stars, and there's my old stars, new stars, old stars, new stars. Okay, it's worth its weight in gold. And if you come in here to the middle, and we look at, one of the tadpoles here, I'm not really doing anything to the tadpoles, right? I'm just affecting the stars. Now you can de-blur these a little bit, but I don't recommend it. And I highly recommend doing this before you do any kind of star removal, because it's really using the stars to do its job. So anyway, that's what I use for that. Okay, so that is now blur exterminated. And honestly, the next step for me is to get rid of the stars. I don't want to do any noise extermination here, and I'll show you why. So let's run noise exterminator. This is also Chromin tool, blur exterminator, star exterminator, and noise exterminator. They're all Chromin tools, and they aren't free. But I've now run it, and let's zoom in here. Look at this blotchiness. Okay, every time I run Noise Exterminator, before I stretch an image, I get this. And it looks pretty nasty and it's hard to get rid of. And when you really start to stretch, you really start to see it. So I'm going to back that off. We go back in and we just have some basic noise, which is fine. So I am going to unscreen the stars. So basically this is, you can remove the stars or you can unscreen them. I just checked this box and made an icon for it. Regular star exterminators here without the unscreened stars checked. So I made a unscreened stars version, and I just drop it on and let it do its job. And when it's finished, which it will be here in a second, and I'm not speeding any of this up, by the way. This is all real time. So it's the magic of the Mac Studio. All right, so I'm going to rename this to stars. Just all lowercase. I'll unstretch it, unnuke it, and then put it over here. Okay. Now that noise extermination, let's do it again. I'll show you it's even worse on an unstretched picture without stars. Look how much worse that is. So I just don't do it. I wait till I'm stretched, and then I'll come back and noise exterminate. All right, so here's my image. Obviously, it looks like that. And I have been running GHS, but I just don't really feel like I'm getting any benefit out of it over and above just running the histogram. So as of late, I'm just opening up a histogram, selecting my image, which, let's rename him real quick. Let's call him Starless. All right, so I'm going to pick Starless here and open up a preview. Now, I assume you've done histogram stretches before, so you know you just you want to do it iteratively so that you can get finer and finer detail as you get closer and closer. So I'm going to pull this about to here, and I'm just going to hit OK it. Then I'm going to pull it again. Starting to see some stuff in here. OK it again. And I'm just going to keep pulling on this little bit by little bit so that I can get finer and finer control of how hard I'm pulling, so I can get right to that edge right there where I start to see some actual data. And I'll OK that. And then I'm just resetting it with this button over here on the right. And then I'll pull my blacks in a little bit. OK that. Then I'll pull that just a hair more. Okay, and then last thing, I'm going to pull the blacks just a hair. You can see down here, it's telling you how much you're cutting off, how much you're losing. So I don't mind losing a little bit, but if you watch the histogram at the top, right, he starts to fall off. And I don't want him to fall off. So I'm going to go right to the edge of that. Okay, that. And honestly, I am done here. This is all the stretching this image needs. Everything else is going to be done on the curves. So this is my new image. Now I'm going to noise exterminate it. And when we're done with this, I'll zoom in and show you that none of that blotchiness is there, right? No blotchiness. So much, much better. I like that order of things. All right, so for me, at this point, really all I need to do is start to create some contrast. So I'm going to open curves. I'm going to leave it on RGB for now. This is a pretty colorful object here, so I'm not going to mess around with too much of the weird color stuff. So I'm going to stick with RGB, open up a preview window, and I'll just start creating some contrast. So creating some S-curves. Obviously, I don't want to do any nonsense like that. Lost it there. So I'll pull on that, and then I'll pull on the darks. And once again, this is an iterative process. I'm just going to keep resetting this so I can pull it cleaner and cleaner the way I want to. Okay. What I'm not getting is any of this very well, and I would like to get that, but let's get this where we want it to be without losing detail. And you can zoom in, like right here. You click this button, you can zoom in, and let's do a quick reset there. So we'll have a look and see if we're actually losing anything, right? So if I pull on that too hard, I do lose some detail in here, but I can pull a little bit there and get some of it back. And that's pretty good. Then when I do that, it'll zoom back out, do a reset. So I'm actually okay with that. That's not bad. That looks reasonably cool. I've got some nice detail here. But I do want to pull this stuff out of the background because it's pretty cool. So to do that, I can't just run curves on it, because if I do, what's going to happen? Let me close that, open a new one. Gets a little weird. If I try and pull on that background, I'm going to lose all of this real good detail in here. So what I'm going to do is create a mask. And it's a very simple process. I'm just going to take my picture and duplicate it and rename this to mask. Okay, so I now have a mask, and I'm going to run the ACDNR process, so ACDNR filters. So you want to open up your lightness mask and open up a profile. So this is currently what the masking would be set to if I was just to hit OK. And there's stuff out here that I don't want to mask, and there's stuff in here I don't want to mask. I'd like to increase some of this as well. So let's get rid of the dark stuff, the darker stuff. Just pull it on this until all that really nice dark stuff is no longer masked. And I can pull in the shadows a little bit. I want to be careful. Some of that stuff can get overdone as well. And then the highlights, I can darken those up so that they're more affected than the midtones. All right, so I've got some midtones. I've got some highlights here. And that's an okay mask. It is a little sharp, but I'll show you how to fix that in a second. So let's okay that and close that. So now I've got my new mask, but if I was just to apply that mask here, it would be really, really sharp, and you'd notice the edges. So I've got a convolution, the convolution mask set up here. These settings kind of worked for me. So 11, 2, and the aspect ratio I didn't touch, but it was just something worth playing with, and I just left it on parametric. So if you drag it on there, it blurs him up, and then the lines aren't as sharp. And you can go a little harder too. You can just do it again and even blur it up a little bit more if you don't like how blurry it is. Okay, so that is ready to rock and roll as a filter, and I'm just going to drag it onto the sidebar with my picture, and now I have applied a mask to my regular image. You can see where all this red is. All right. Then I'm going to go back to curves, open up a profile, or excuse me, a preview. And now when I stretch on those midtones, I'm not losing all my detail in here on all these nice little pretty highlights. Oops. Reset. I screwed something up. All right. So let's pull on that again. And I can still come down here and pull out that background and try and increase this contrast a little bit more. It's not bad. Let me okay that. I don't know if I can get a lot more out of that without remasking this yet again. I could come in and mask all of this really hard and then fight for this. Let's, fuck it, let's do it. Let's see what it looks like. I've never done that. So I close that window, and now I'm going to remove the mask. Just a right click, mask, and remove it. So this is my new image. So let's take this mask. Let's open him back up, and let's back off some of the changes that were made here. All right, so we're back to this image that we had before. Let's come back here, do a preview, and let's really ramp these highlights up and these midtones up and get the shadows gone. So a nice dark mask. All right, that should preserve the lightness in that. So let's okay that, do that, close our preview, and let's soften it up. A little more than that. There we go. All right, so now let's put him back. All right, so now we've got quite a bit more masked and a little bit more aggressively. So we're going to open curves back up. Start a preview. Now let's pull on these midtones again. See, now I'm really getting some stuff out of them without blowing up what I have here in the middle. And I'll pull some contrast. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So, and as you know, this is always an art project, so how you feel about it is how it's good enough, right? So that's pretty solid, and I don't know if I want to toy with that anymore. So let's close that and let's get rid of the mask. Okay, so now I've got the image I was looking for. I've got all the background I wanted. I've got all the detail in here that I wanted. If it's a little bright, if you don't like the background, you could pull it down more, but personally, I don't think the sky is black. So to me, I'm okay with kind of this gray. What we don't have are any stars. So at this point, I'm going to come up here to GHS. So I do like GHS for stars. Generalized hyperbolic stretch. So basically, we'll open up a preview. We don't need to put a new symmetry point in because this should be 0. So I'm going to leave this stretch factor at 0, right? If I put it over here and send it down, then I get a different symmetry point, and I don't really want to do that. So let's leave that symmetry point at 0, and let's just start pulling on this. And I like to kind of go back and forth and see what I get. At some point, I'm looking to get the dimmer stars, but not make them terribly bright. So when I see a spot that's kind of got some few stars, I'd like to get like a bright one and a bunch of dim ones too. So let's come over here and zoom in by clicking there and going there. So now I can pull on this, and I can see that I've got some dim stars here that will pull in. Now, if I pull really hard, then it just gets dumb, right? Then I start to see crazy nonsense. But somewhere in there, I'm starting to get dim stars like here and here and over here and here. And they look pretty good. They're not bad. But the next thing I want to do is I want to put a little halo on these stars just because they're a little too bright overall. So I want the center to be bright, but I want there to be a halo because I want the color that goes with the halo. So that's where you pull on local intensity. And if you watch this star, so let's zoom him back out. Let's go find a nice bright one right here. Let's do this guy. Okay, so I've got this nice bright star. I pulled that a little hard. Here, let's back that off just a hair. Okay. Now I'm going to pull on this local intensity. I want you to watch here what happens to that star. Okay, so now basically what I'm doing is I'm making the bright part smaller, basically. So, and I don't want to go crazy, right? I'm not trying to go nuts here, but I do want to pull out and give a little more halo around here. Because I'm going to go back to curves, and I'm going to add some color to these stars, because these are going to be blue, this is going to be red. So some pretty cool star colors here to be had. So I'm happy with that. We close that and get rid of my previous. So this is our new star field. It could use a little bit of color. So let's go back to curves. We're going to click on saturation and open up a preview window. And I like to zoom in again on the most colorful of the stars because I don't want to just do crazy nonsense to them. Right? I don't want to do that. Right? That's just nuts. But I do want to give some coloration to these stars. That's not too bad. Let's have a look at that bigger. Yeah, that's pretty good. Nice, good orange star there. Some nice blue stars. All right, that's cool. Happy with that. All right, so now I've created my stars. I'll set those back over here. I have created some pixel math, and it's just simply this formula right here. So starless and stars is this stars file, this starless file. And to be fair, I got to rename this. There. So now I have two files, starless and stars. And if I want to, now that I've created this little pixel math icon, I can just drag him on. And there's my stars. And to be fair, I'm pretty happy with that overall. Not bad, but let's play around a little bit with the narrowband stuff. So this was shot with a filter. So let me rename this. Well, let's put the stars back on it. Let's do the stars real quick. So put the stars on it. And now I'm going to rename this to starless. We'll just say real color. All right, that's fine. And we can now back that up. And create a copy. So let's do duplicate. Pull him aside real quick. It's probably not the smoothest way to do that. All right, so now I've got my new starless real color picture, and I'm going to drop him over here for a minute. And I'm going to take this one, which is my starless clone, and I'm going to rename it just the starless because I'm going to put stars back in that in a little bit. All right, let's get him bigger. Because I'm old, I need to see things bigger. And let's open up narrowband normalization. So this is pretty weird nonsense, but it's basically, it understands that I've got a filter and I've got two different wavelengths. So I'm going to run an H, O, and O on this particular one. You can do different versions, but these don't work very well with a dual band filter. But HO works pretty decent. Lightness, you can mess with this, but H8 always seems to work best. So I kind of leave it there, and I'll show that to you. So let's open up a preview window. So this is HA lightness. Then I can do O3 lightness, and then it just gets even weirder from there, and I really don't like it. We can turn it off. And then there's preserve, but HA just seems to come out best. And we can deal with what seems like it's a little too bright here with some of the other settings. So mode 1, basically we're going to take the 03 and we can boost it. So everything that's 03 turns very blue, and then we can turn it basically off. So somewhere up in here, while things aren't getting like terribly weird, we can add a little bit of boost to the 03 data, get kind of a blue color here, which is not too bad. And then we have this blending model for synthetic green. So if we pull it to here, we get pink. We pull it to there, we get complete green. There's some different color representations. You can just slowly move it up and down this and kind of see what you like. There are 3 modes. Mode 2, I've never found anything that I liked about it. But mode 1 I use, and mode 3 I like as well. Subtle difference between them. A little more pink, some other stuff. But really what I'm looking for is contrast. So in this case, this contrast is too high. So I can actually come here and pull some of the highlights down and really increase that contrast quite a bit. I don't like this color either. Yeah, I like it a little more blue. Yeah, I don't like that. Somewhere in there is not too bad. The shadow point just does that, and I don't really like it, so I don't mess with it. You can change the overall brightness of the entire thing, and just really get some crazy stuff out of this. Then maybe bring your highlights back up a hair. Let's toy with this colors again. I think I like the yellow and a little bit of blue. Let's see if I can get a little more out of that. That's not bad. I like that quite a bit. I don't like these blue splotches up in here, but not sure I know how to get rid of those. So if we're happy with that, then basically we can OK it. And our underlying picture now looks like this. It's called Starless, so I can just run my pixel math. And voila, now I've got my stars. So here is my narrowband normalized version, and here is my real color version. And they are pretty distinctly different. Let's get him over there. There you go. So there you go. That is my process. That's how I operate and do things. So obviously this is your art project, so you get to do whatever you like, but that's pretty much exactly the order in which I do things. But look at this. Look how cool that is over here. And it's just almost invisible over there. So this narrowband normalization stuff is awesome, especially shooting nebula with dual band filters. I'm sure you get this detail with red, green, and blue or SHO filters, but I don't do that because I'm too damn lazy. But all right, that's it. Hopefully that helps.